Imagine this with me, if you will. People fresh from, generations of brutal slavery, just delivered by the most astounding, earth-shattering miracles you could ever conceive.
Yeah, absolutely incredible events.
They've seen a sea part before them, felt the ground rumble as God himself spoke from a fiery mountaintop, eaten bread that literally fell from the sky. They are free, celebrating, and then,
Then, yeah.
less than 2 months later, they abandon it all for something they made with their own hands. A golden calf.
Mm.
It's a story that truly makes you pause and just wonder, how quickly can we as humans forget the profound, the miraculous, and trade it for something, well, utterly superficial, something of our own making?
It's a powerful question. Timeless one, really.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into one of the most potent and frankly perplexing narratives from ancient texts.
Yeah.
The incident of the golden calf.
Definitely perplexing.
And this isn't just some old dusty tale. It's really a foundational story. It gives us a profound look at human nature, at leadership, the critical role of it, and maybe surprisingly, at the boundless nature of divine grace.
Absolutely. And its relevance today is, well, quite striking.
It really is. So we've gathered a stack of sources looking into this pivotal event, its causes, its devastating consequences, and the lessons it holds about faith, betrayal, and something called intercession.
That's right.
Our mission here is to kind of extract the most important nuggets of knowledge for you, the listener, helping you understand not just what happened back then, but why its message, still echoes so deeply for us today.
Yeah, why it still matters.
Okay, so our sources point out something truly astonishing. Think about it. After witnessing mighty signs, experiencing direct divine intervention, hearing God himself thunder the Ten Commandments.
Right, from Sinai, yeah, the smoke, the fire.
Exactly. And then the people turned to a human-made idol in just 40 days. 40 days. That's it.
It's incredibly fast.
40 days of their visible leader's absence. The texts themselves ask the question, and it's one we'll wrestle with today.
How could they have done that? How could such a huge shift happen so quickly?
It's a question that, it really defies simple answers, doesn't it? What our sources show is more like a tapestry of reasons, not just one single point of failure.
Okay.
They suggest possibilities like a fundamental misunderstanding of who God really was, or perhaps being swayed by immediate earthly desires, what some texts call carnal desires, that hunger for what felt good and tangible right then.
Uh-huh. Instant gratification.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Or maybe deep ingratitude for everything God had just done. Or even perhaps the influence of old ways of thinking, sinful patterns they hadn't quite shaken off from Egypt.
Right. Those old habits die hard.
Exactly. So it wasn't just one switch that flipped, but a complex mix of things.
And it all seems to kick off with Moses being gone.
Right.
He's up on Mount Sinai, 40 days, 40 nights, getting instructions directly from God.
In God's presence, yeah. Now for us, maybe 40 days doesn't sound like forever, but for the Israelites down there in the wilderness, our sources say it felt long, too long.
Mm-hmm. You can imagine the anxiety building.
Without their visible leader, they got disoriented, impatient, fearful, insecure. They were kind of adrift.
And they desperately wanted something concrete to cling to. Their desire grew for a visible God who would lead them. And this is a really critical point.
Okay.
It mirrors the kinds of gods they'd seen their whole lives back in Egypt.
Idols.
Ah, right. Tangible things.
Exactly. They wanted something physical, something they could see and maybe feel they could depend on, rather than this invisible God who'd led them by cloud and fire.
Even though they'd seen his power.
Even though they'd witnessed his glory in these awesome ways, but they still craved something they could touch, maybe even something they felt they could control. It's a recurring human thing, isn't it? Trying to get a handle on the divine.
Yeah, trying to manage God. Okay, and there's another crucial detail the sources point to, this mixed multitude. Who were they exactly? Right, this wasn't just the descendants of Jacob who'd been slaves for generations. This was the diverse group who came out with them from Egypt.
Okay.
People may be formed by intermarriage between Hebrews and Egyptians, folks from various backgrounds. And our sources actually identify them as the principal movers in this dreadful departure from God.
Really? The main instigators?
They're called leaders in the apostasy, this, turning away from faith. The texts say they were particularly impatient and rebellious, even longing to go back to Egypt.
Wow, back to slavery.
Apparently. They even suggested carrying this new idol back to Egypt to, quote, find favor with the Egyptians. It's quite something.
So if we kind of zoom out, connect the dots, this wasn't necessarily the whole nation spontaneously deciding this.
Our sources strongly suggest not. They indicate specific influential instigators. The mixed multitude are explicitly cited as being the first to indulge murmuring and impatience, and they essentially led the charge into idolatry. It really highlights how a vocal, discontented minority can sway a whole group, especially when that group feels vulnerable and, well, leaderless.
Okay, so that vulnerability, that impatience, it leads to this critical moment, Aaron's capitulation, which is just heartbreaking.
It really is.
A large company assembled around the tent of Aaron, basically demanding, "Make us gods which shall go before us."
And their excuse.
Their excuse was that the cloud, the sign of God's presence leading them, had permanently settled on the mountain and wasn't going to guide them anymore. Convenient.
Very convenient.
And the sources stress this crisis needed a leader with firmness, decision, and unflinching courage. Someone who put God's honor above popularity or even personal safety.
And Aaron? Well, he didn't meet that standard, unfortunately. He did offer an initial protest, or remonstrance, the texts say, but he quickly ceased his reasoning.
Why? What happened?
He sensed the people were determined. Our sources tell us he feared for his own safety and basically cowardly yielded to the wishes of an impatient people.
Oh, man.
He acted in direct opposition to the commands of God. It seems his natural desire to please, to yield to the crowd, tragically won out over his duty and what he knew was right.
He knew better, but he caved.
He caved. He chose appeasement.
And what he does next is almost unbelievable. He tells them to collect their gold earrings, maybe, the sources suggest, hoping their vanity, their pride, would make them refuse.
A desperate hope, perhaps.
But nope. They willingly hand over the gold. And from these valuable ornaments, Aaron made a molten calf, deliberately imitating the gods of Egypt.
He fashions the idol himself.
Then he builds an altar and announces, "Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord." But the really shocking part, the bit that just shows the depth of the delusion, is that Aaron stands there and hears the people shout, "These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt."
Yeah, attributing deliverance to that.
The sheer audacity, the complete reversal of reality, attributing God's miraculous deliverance to this thing they just made. It's like profound collective amnesia setting in instantly.
And Aaron's sin was seen as so heinous, so terrible, precisely because of who he was.
Right, he wasn't just anybody.
No, he was the saint of the Lord, Moses' own spokesman. He'd even been up the mountain with Moses and had beheld the glory of the Lord.
He'd seen it firsthand.
Exactly. The sources emphasize that his compliance, his calm assurance as he carried out their plans, actually emboldened them to go to greater lengths in sin.
So his failure wasn't just personal, it amplified the whole disaster.
Precisely. Which raises that important question for us, doesn't it? What makes a leader's failure so much more impactful, so much more dangerous than maybe the sins of the average person?
Yeah, it's that breach of trust, isn't it? The example it sets, it almost gives permission.
It can absolutely give permission for wider, deeper corruption. And then to make matters worse, when Moses finally comes down the mountain.
Oh, yeah. Confrontation time.
Aaron tries to wriggle out of it. He tries to shield himself by relating the clamors of the people, blaming them.
Passing the buck.
Totally. And he even makes up this completely unbelievable story, telling Moses, basically, I threw the gold into the fire, and poof, out came this calf.
Seriously, like it just magically appeared.
As if by magic, yeah. The level of self-deception there, or maybe just outright lying, is just stunning.
And this whole act, making the calf, worshiping it, it was a direct violation, a blatant transgression of the first two commandments they had just heard.
Just heard from Sinai, amidst these, sublime demonstrations of divine power. God's own voice had forbidden this exact thing.
Yet here they were.
And the idol itself, the calf, is so telling, isn't it? It directly resembled Egyptian gods Apis the bull, or Hathor the cow god.
So a direct link back to Egypt.
Yes. And what's really insightful here is how quickly their understanding of God, their relationship with their creator, got twisted. This act basically reversed the creation order.
How so?
Well, they made a god in the image of an animal, instead of remembering that they were made in God's image. It's complete spiritual devolution, a downward spiral.
And the consequences weren't just spiritual, were they?
Not at all. Swift and severe. Our sources say idolatry quickly ruptured their relationship with the Lord and immediately triggered a downward moral spiral.
What did that look like?
The people gave themselves up to gluttony and licentious reveling, basically, unrestrained partying and debauchery, indulging in shameful rioting and drunkenness. The sources are blunt. They corrupted themselves, plain and simple.
Wow. From divine encounter to drunken riot in just weeks.
It's a stark picture. And this ancient story, our sources reveal, has this really profound, maybe uncomfortable relevance for us now.
How so?
The human condition, it seems, hasn't changed that much because, as one source puts it, humans are geniuses at fabricating their own idols.
What kind of idols are we talking about today? It's not golden calves, usually.
No, not literal statues, but think about it. We can replace God with almost anything. Pride, self-centeredness, sure, but also money, power, sex, food, TV, drugs, alcohol.
Even things that seem good.
Especially things that seem good. Think about work.
Yeah.
It starts noble, right? Providing for family, contributing, but it can subtly become an idol when it defines your whole self-worth.
Yeah, when you sacrifice everything else for it.
Exactly. Relationships, health, maybe even your core values, all for that next promotion or external validation that feels hollow anyway.
Or think about something like social media. Starts as connection, ends up as a chase for likes, where your online persona feels more real than you do.
Right. It dictates your feelings, your choices, your identity even. It's truly anything good, beautiful, or meaningful that can get twisted. It changes our personality, how we think, our affections, our social lives, leading to interactions that are ultimately hollow and meaningless.
So the crucial question we have to ask ourselves is, what are the golden calves we might be creating in our lives today? Maybe without even realizing it. Things that demand our devotion and skew our priorities.
That's a vital question because the mechanism underneath is the same. Taking something created, something finite, and giving it the place that only the Creator deserves.
Okay, so the people are in this state of moral decay, this idolatry. How does God react?
Well, understandably, with righteous wrath. Our sources describe God's anger at their rebellion. And he makes this proposal to Moses. Essentially, let me consume them, and I'll make of you a great nation instead.
Wow, wipe them out and start over with Moses.
Exactly. But this was more than just anger. It was also a profound test of Moses, a test of his perseverance, faithfulness, and love. What would he do?
So what did this moment demand of Moses? How did he respond?
It demanded everything, and Moses absolutely refused. He would not consent to Israel's destruction.
He stood up to God.
In a way, yes. He valued more highly the prosperity of God's chosen people and a great name for himself. He appeals to God's own character, his promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He reminds God of the covenant.
He uses God's own words, in a sense.
He does. And he also makes a very practical argument.
Right.
What would the other nations say? They'd triumph and reproach God, saying things like, for mischief did he bring them out to slay them in the mountains.
Right, it would look bad for God's reputation.
Exactly. And in that moment, Moses' usual timidity just vanished. It was lost in his deep interest and love for that people. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, Moses' prayer wasn't just like begging.
No.
It was a profound act. Recalling God's character, holding God to his promises, and literally standing in the gap, interceding for the people he led and loved.
And did it work, that kind of intercession?
It absolutely did. The power is palpable. The Lord listened to his pleadings, our sources emphasize, and regarded his unselfish prayer. He promised Moses he would spare Israel.
Wow.
It demonstrates the immense tangible power of intercessory prayer, praying on behalf of others.
That's incredible.
It truly is.
Yeah.
And in fact, our sources draw this powerful, almost prophetic parallel here between Moses and Christ himself.
How so?
Moses' prayer for sinners, his willingness to offer his own life for them. It's incredibly similar to the ultimate sacrifice. Remember, he pleads with God, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, I pray, blot me out of your book which you have written.
Offer his own salvation for theirs.
Yes. And what's fascinating linguistically is that the word translated forgive here can also mean to bear or carry sin.
Ah, like taking it on himself.
Exactly. Which directly mirrors prophecies like Isaiah 53.4 about Jesus. Surely he has borne our griefs. It gives us this powerful insight into what theologians call substitutionary atonement, the idea of one person voluntarily taking the penalty for someone else's sin.
So Moses' act foreshadows Christ's sacrifice.
It's a deeply resonant symbol centuries beforehand. It shows the incredible depth of Moses' empathy and his willingness to sacrifice himself.
This whole idea of intercessory prayer, though, can feel a bit mysterious, can't it? Like, how does it actually work? Does it change God's mind?
That's a fair question, and our sources acknowledge the mystery. One states, we do not need to know precisely how intercessory prayer functions, but God's word testifies that it works, and our experience confirms it.
So we don't get the full mechanics manual.
Apparently not. We don't control prayer, but we are absolutely invited to pray, even commanded to do so.
Okay. But how does it fit with God already knowing everything and, as you mentioned, respecting free will?
Right, it's a complex interplay. Our sources talk about God respecting choices and guaranteeing freedom.
Mm-hmm.
They introduce this idea of rules of engagement in the unseen spiritual world, like a cosmic battle is unfolding.
Rules of engagement.
Yeah, God permits evil to act, not because he approves, obviously, but to fully demonstrate what his reign would look like, what happens when we choose paths away from him. This allows everyone to compare the outcomes, to make informed choices.
So he doesn't just step in and force things.
No, because he keeps his promises. He prioritizes the full blossoming of love, which requires genuine freedom. He won't override our ability to choose, even if we choose poorly. So within these divine rules of consistency and human freedom, the question becomes, how can our prayers make a difference?
It seems maybe it's less about changing God's fundamental nature and more about aligning with his will, partnering with him.
That seems to be the direction the sources point. Despite not understanding every puzzle piece, we are called to pray. And the text suggests when God's people pray, the evil kingdom is shattered and God's cause can mysteriously advance.
So our prayers aren't passive wishes, they're active participation.
Active participation in the unfolding of God's purpose, yes. Even within those rules of engagement.
And just as a final note on grace, what happened to Aaron in the end, after such a massive failure?
It's actually a powerful testament to grace. Our sources say the Lord was very angry with Aaron, naturally. But significantly, in answer to the earnest intercession of Moses, his life was spared.
So Moses prayed for Aaron too.
He did. And we learn Aaron sincerely repented. And incredibly, he was restored to his leadership position, eventually even becoming the first high priest.
Wow, from golden calf facilitator to high priest.
It's a powerful demonstration of God's grace and mercy. Even after profound failure, there was a path to redemption through Moses' intercession and Aaron's genuine repentance.
This deep dive into the golden calf story has been, well, incredibly illuminating. We've seen just how fast human forgetfulness and corruption can set in.
Astonishingly fast.
We've seen the crucial, sometimes dangerous role of leadership and the profound, truly transformative power of intercessory prayer.
Yeah, and how easily good things can become idols.
Right, and how true faith seems to demand this unwavering trust even when things are uncertain, even in the leader's absence.
Absolutely. This whole story, this fall into apostasy and the subsequent intercession, it reveals the terrible cost of human sin. But maybe even more profoundly, it reveals the boundless cost of God's love and forgiveness.
So, considering Moses' willingness to offer his own life for his people and how that plea, as you said, foreshadowed an even greater sacrifice, here's something to think about. What does this ancient narrative tell you personally about the lengths God is willing to go for fallen humanity? And maybe what might that inspire in your own life today?